Welcome to segment 3, joined by Bruce Weber. Bruce needs an introduction to our audience, obviously, long time, 18 years at Purdue as an assistant coach, won 400. Every time I see that, 497 games, you're not old enough to have won 497 games. That's impressive. That at Kansas State, at Illinois, took Illinois to the Final Four in 2005, and of course Southern Illinois, where he worked with a guy named Matt Painter, and of course he knows that. But first, I wanted to kind of on a sad note, not kind of on a sad note, on a real sad note, with Jim Rowinski's passing on Thursday. Just an unbelievable story from a basketball perspective. You obviously coached him to his greatest heights as an assistant. Just talk about kind of not a whole lot to say in this situation, but it's still a very, very numbing situation, and it's sad to hear about Jim's passing.
Yeah, just very, very tragic, and for him to pass, obviously, and just an amazing story. Probably one of there's so many great stories in college basketball, but his is so unique, as you know, and to be a walk-on, to get hurt like he did, and all of a sudden to grow whatever it was, 6-7 inches, and get strong like that, and end up leading us to a Big Ten championship and becoming the MVP of the Big Ten. When I tell people stories like that, they're like, "Oh, you're making this up." It's like a book, and so it's amazing what he did. He ended up playing, professional basketball for quite a while, and he loved basketball. He loved playing. He loved working out. And he was just a good person. Obviously, really good friends with that group. Kurt Clausen, Greg Eifert, all they communicated with me last night, and they had a lot of fun together. There's no doubt.
And when they made it quite in the '82 trip to New York for the NIT championship, he took me off track betting, so he got me into that. He loved being a New York guy and being from Long Island. That was a big deal for him, and he was the quintessential guy, and that really went from a complete, like you said, a renegade on Lee Rose's staff to starting 2 years later. We remember his first start was against Akeem Olajuwon. Just an unreal story.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and the uniqueness too of Russell Cross going pro, and then Jim getting that opportunity. Because if Russell doesn't go pro, Jim's not probably playing quite. He's definitely not starting and not playing. And also the story we visited last year, one of the greatest comeback games in the history, and him banking in the shot at the top of the key. I'll always remember that one.
Yeah, it's hard to forget. All right, Purdue dodged a huge bullet on Wednesday against Northwestern in a really incredible game. You and Ray and Dave Revson had some great not only commentary but analysis of that. But talk about that. Northwestern is really good. It's hard for sometimes Purdue fans to fully realize. They should now, because obviously the Wildcats beat Purdue up in Evanston, but Northwestern is really good, but Purdue, it showed a lot about Purdue to get out of that game alive, not shooting the ball from the free throw line very well, and yet finding a way to win. Does that say a lot about where Purdue is, or is that just something that Purdue fans need to be concerned about moving forward?
Well, I really think it says a lot about Purdue. We always talk about good teams find a way to win, and it wasn't like Purdue played bad, other than the free throws. They shot 57 from the field, I believe, and 46 from three. I'm pretty sure that they shot the ball well. Northwestern is good, and I think a lot of times it's just matchups. People don't realize how important matchups are. How Northwestern plays and runs their stuff, and they shot unbelievable, and it's just amazing. Both games were similar. 8 points at halftime. Northwestern's comebacks in the second half, tie score at the end, overtime, and both teams win kind of about the same amount on home court. So Northwestern's good, and if you really study it, Northwestern played at Wisconsin. They played them the best anyone has played in Madison, they also have played the best, other than Wisconsin last night, overtime, they had played at Nebraska the best game, and now they played Purdue the best. So they're a good team, and you look at them, maybe they're not sexy and they don't have some star players. Well, Boo Buie's a star, but I mean, they don't have, I guess, beyond Boo, they don't have these name players. But Chris Collins has done a really nice job, and it's a good win for Purdue. And
The next
I-
one,
you know,
running out of gate number
with Boo Buie having the ball at the end of the
Houston
game,
Intercontinental Flight
they're very
4128.
fortunate because he's made a lot of big
running
shots
7 minutes
along the
behind
way,
schedule.
and he didn't get that one to
Lieutenant
go. And
departure
Purdue
is
responded.
10:17.
I love what Braden
local
Smith, how
Central
he
Time.
played.
And
It's just
Your
amazing his
aircraft
maturity as a player.
175 seated passengers.
It is
Are
a
there any
travesty
passengers that
that
have
he's
any
not on
strollers,
that
any
Bob
car
Cousy
seats,
list
any
as
personal
the top-
assistant
one of the top
devices?
point guards.
For example, your
I-
wheelchair or
I'm
your
not sure he's
walker.
gonna win the
These
top
people
point
will
guard in
now
the
bring
country,
Yeah.
but
status to the
he
customer
deserves to
service
be on that
forum here
list,
at
there's no doubt.
B19 to be gate checked before
Yeah,
we start the boarding process.
He
for your
absolutely. I mean, it is amazing. He's one of the best point guards Purdue has had in a long time. If maybe at the end of the day, be the best they've ever had, just in terms of how the job he's done. I think the other thing that was interesting about that game is just the fact that Purdue, Zach Edey had 15 points midway through the second half, and basically scores 15 points in the last 5 or 6 minutes of the last 3 or 4 minutes of regulation in the last 5 minutes. But just Purdue deciding to go to Edey and getting it done that way is certainly a formula for success.
Yeah, they had, and again, I give Braden credit. There were several opportunities where he could have shot it. He had an open shot, but he was a little more patient. He got the post speed. He kept his dribble a couple times and got it to Zach. He was smart enough. Obviously, he's listening to Coach Painter. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
That when you're coachable and you want to win, he made all the right plays to get it to Zach. And then they just, Northwestern is as physical as anybody. If Zach makes his free throws, he has even a bigger game. And that's the thing that's been so impressive for me with Zach, is that he is a good free throw shooter in over 70. Usually for big guys, that's a difficult task a lot of times.
Yeah.
To make free
For
throws,
those
but
passengers that are coming to
they
Cincinnati,
made the
flight
right
4274.
decisions and got the ball to him at
Cincinnati
the
will
right
be the
time.
next one up, departing out of gate number B17.
Yeah, no question. And he has been worthy of National Player of the Year, though I know you guys have some debate, even with Ray Davis on the set, about Boo Buie's ability to be first team All-American, maybe national. For the while during that game, he said, "My gosh, he is as good as anybody in the country." But do you think Buie ends up being he'll be an All Big Ten guy? Do you think he makes a first team All-American? Do you think he makes top 2 teams All-American? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think he deserves to be up there in that top couple. I haven't studied national every team like maybe some you have, and know a lot more. But Zach's going to be there. There's no doubt. Boo Buie deserves to be up there, and if he makes that shot at the end of the game and beats Purdue at Purdue, it would have helped. But he's not even on the Wooden list, which was really disappointing. Also, and one thing I talked about the guys in the studio and all the producers and all that at the BTN is it disturbing that for the Big Ten nationally that Braden didn't get on the Cousy list and Boo didn't get on the Wooden list? Are we not getting the publicity we need? Because I'm not sure the depth is as good as it was a year ago, but I think the top teams are definitely as good and probably better. No doubt with Purdue, no doubt with Wisconsin. I think Northwestern, I doubt it if they were better than last year, but they're definitely capable. They're way better offensively. I guess Michigan State would be the one. Can they ever get on a little bit of a run? Nebraska's better than a year ago. Maryland, I think Maryland's the one that, is kind of the surprising team that, they may make the run. And then obviously Illinois is better than they were a year ago also. Yeah,
interesting thing. It'll be interesting to see not only how many teams make the the tournament, but how it all plays out in the Big Ten tournament. You'll have a lot to talk about from that standpoint. Okay, Wisconsin, crazy, 19. That was the statistic that I don't know, that got pulled out, that they were what, 120 and 0 when they were up 15 at the half. Well, they were up 15 at the half and lost at Nebraska. What you see there, and you prepared teams with those type psyche situation where Purdue is mentally after its win, where Wisconsin may be after an overtime loss and a 1 day less to prepare. What does all that mean on Sunday when these two teams meet?
I don't think it means a whole lot, to be honest. There's sometimes
Good.
You know, we always say don't let one loss make two losses, and I just think they're too mature playing at home, playing Purdue. You know, I don't think it'll make a difference with Wisconsin. Obviously, Purdue has some nice momentum. You know, and they had to win it the way they did in overtime. I think that you keep your edge there. Wisconsin is really, really good. I actually had the first Nebraska at Wisconsin game, and they scored 88. They score at home. They're very efficient. I do see them giving Purdue a little bit of problem, especially if their big guys make three. If they're, you know, the matchups, you know, I haven't talked to Matt. I texted him yesterday, actually, but not about matchups or anything. But you would think he might put Zach on Wall, because Wall probably scores more inside. You know, and then you got a Chance Gillis or Trey Kaufman-Renn or whoever can guard Crowell out on the court, although they'll put Crowell inside at times too. But I think he's more effective when he makes threes for them. I think the big matchup is who's going to stop AJ Crowell. And I mean, he's a special player. And, you know, but again, Klesmit and you can Chucky Hepburn, Blackwell comes off the bench. Every game it seems to be somebody else. But for them to lose last night, the way they lost, it was very, very uncharacteristic of them. They're so efficient. They've been so good about taking care of the ball and making the right plays. And but as you know, and watching Purdue go to Nebraska, you know, couple of years in a row here, that place, they get going, they get cooking. Fred lets them play, and they can make some shots, and you know, just and even down the stretch, it looked like Wisconsin had the game.
Yeah.
And you know, Mass makes an unbelievable step back three to tie that thing, and Nebraska could have won in regulation. They had the ball.
Regulation, yeah,
did it. So, but I expect it's a big time game. Obviously, you got them again one more time. And you got Illinois at Illinois. So, you know, and I'm not looking by other people, but, you know, those both teams, if you look at it, have about the same schedule. Wisconsin has two. They have Illinois at home and Purdue at home. And obviously, Purdue has two road games at Madison and also at Illinois here down the stretch in this last 9.
Yeah. I think that's the number one thing that us mere mortals that observe basketball do not understand. And I still don't, you know, when you talk matchups, and you're right, it's always all coaches, good coaches like yourself, talk about matchups. It's hard for all of us to fully understand, like, why certain games are not better than they are. But certain matchups end up being a certain thing, but that is a difference. Hey, Bruce, thanks so much for your time today. We kind of made our way through the airport here, and I appreciate your patience, and sorry for a little bit of that background noise, but always great to talk to you, and always great to get your expertise on Gold and Black Live. I also want to thank Triple X and State Farm agent Trent Johnson for their support and sponsorship. Folks back at WLFI too, for Gordon and Mary and everybody else that makes it happen. We'll be back next week. Somebody that Bruce Weber knows well, Gene Cady, will join us next week, as well as he's going to be back for the Purdue Indiana game. That's on the schedule. And Chad Brown from Profile Behavior also will be joining us too. So Bruce, thanks again, and everybody else, have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back next week on Gold and Black Live.